Accounts differ on how many swords set sail from Dragonstone with Aegon and his sisters. Some say 3,000, others number them only in the hundreds. This modest Targaryen host put ashore at the mouth of the Blackwater Rush, on the northern bank where 3 wooded hills rose above a small fishing village. In the days of the Hundred Kingdoms, many petty kings had claimed dominion over the river mouth, amongst them the Darkland kings of Duskendale, the Massies of Stoneadens, and the river kings of old, be they muds, fishers, brackens, blackwoods, or hooks. Towers and forts had crowned the 3 hills at various times, only to be thrown down in one war or another. Now only broken stones and overgrown ruins remained to welcome the Targaryens. Though claimed by both Storm's End and Harrenhal, the river mouth was undefended, and the closest castles were held by lesser lords of no great power or military prowess, and lords moreover who had little reason to love their nominal overlord, Harren the Black. Aegon Targaryen quickly threw up a log and earth palisade around the highest of the 3 hills, and dispatched his sisters to secure the submission of the nearest castles. Rosby yielded to Rhaenys and golden-eyed Merryxes without a fight. At Stokeworth a few crossbowmen loosed bolts at Visenya, until Vagar's flames set the roofs of the castle keep ablaze. Then they too submitted. The Conqueror's first true test came from Lord Darklan of Duskendale and Lord Mudan of Maidenpool, who joined their power and marched south with 3,000 men to drive the invaders back into the sea. Aegon sent Orys Baratheon out to attack them on the march, whilst he descended on them from above with the Black Dread. Both lords were slain in the one-sided battle that followed. Darkland's son and Mudan's brother thereafter yielded up their castles and swore their swords to House Targaryen. At that time Duskendale was the principal Westerosi port on the narrow sea, and had grown fat and wealthy from the trade that passed through its harbor. Visenya Targaryen did not allow the town to be sacked, but she did not hesitate to claim its riches, greatly swelling the coffers of the conquerors. This perhaps would be an apt place to discuss the differing characters of Aegon Targaryen and his sisters and queens. Visenya, eldest of the 3 siblings, was as much a warrior as Aegon himself, as comfortable in ringmail as in silk. She carried the Valyrian longsword Dark Sister, and was skilled in its use, having trained beside her brother since childhood. Though possessed of the silver-gold hair and purple eyes of Valyria, hers was a harsh, austere beauty. Even those who loved her best found Visenya stern, serious, and unforgiving. Some said that she played with poisons and dabbled in dark sorceries. Rhaenys, youngest of the 3 Targaryens, was all her sister was not: playful, curious, impulsive, given to flights of fancy. No true warrior, Rhaenys loved music, dancing, and poetry, and supported many a singer, mummer, and puppeteer. Yet it was said that Rhaenys spent more time on Dragonback than her brother and sister combined, for above all things she loved to fly. She once was heard to say that before she died she meant to fly Merryxes across the sunset sea to see what lay upon its western shores. Whilst no one ever questioned Visenya's fidelity to her brother husband, Rhaenys surrounded herself with comely young men, and, it was whispered, even entertained some in her bedchambers on the nights when Aegon was with her elder sister. Yet despite these rumors, observers at court could not fail to note that the king spent 10 nights with Rhaenys for every night with Visenya. Aegon Targaryen himself, strangely, was as much an enigma to his contemporaries as to us. Armed with the Valyrian steel blade Blackfire, he was counted amongst the greatest warriors of his age, yet he took no pleasure in feats of arms, and never rode in tourney or melee. His mount was Balerion the Black Dread, but he flew only to battle or to travel swiftly across land and sea. His commanding presence drew men to his banners, yet he had no close friends, save Orys Baratheon, the companion of his youth. Women were drawn to him, but Aegon remained ever faithful to his sisters. As king, he put great trust in his small council and his sisters, leaving much of the day-to-day governance of the realm to them. Yet did not hesitate to take command when he found it necessary. Though he dealt harshly with rebels and traitors, he was open-handed with former foes who bent the knee. This he showed for the first time at the Aegon fort, the crude wood and earth castle he had raised atop what would henceforth and forever be known as Aegon's High Hill. Having taken a dozen castles and secured the mouth of the Blackwater Rush on both sides of the river, he commanded the lords he had defeated to attend him. There they laid their swords at his feet, and Aegon raised them up and confirmed them in their lands and titles. To his oldest supporters he gave new honors. Daemon Valerion, Lord of the Tides, was made Master of Ships, in command of the royal fleet. Tristan Massey, Lord of Stoneadence, was named Master of Laws, Crispian Celtigar Master of Coin. And Orys Baratheon he proclaimed to be, my shield, my stalwart, my strong right hand. Thus Baratheon is reckoned by the maesters the first king's hand. Heraldic banners had long been a tradition amongst the lords of Westeros, but such had never been used by the dragonlords of Old Valyria. When Aegon's knights unfurled his great silken battle standard, with a red three-headed dragon breathing fire upon a black field, the lords took it for a sign that he was now truly one of them, a worthy high king for Westeros. When Queen Visenya placed a Valyrian steel circlet, studded with rubies, on her brother's head and Queen Rhaenys hailed him as, Aegon, first of his name, king of all Westeros, and shield of his people, the dragons roared and the lords and knights sent up a cheer. But the small folk, the fishermen and fieldhands and goodwives, shouted loudest of all. The 7 kings that Aegon the dragon meant to uncrown were not cheering, however. In Harrenhal and Storm's End, Harren the Black and Argilac the Arrogant had already called their banners. In the west, King Mern of the Reach rode the ocean road north to Castley Rock to meet with King Loren of House Lannister. The Princess of Dorne dispatched a raven to Dragonstone, offering to join Aegon against Argilac the Storm King. But as an equal and ally, not a subject. Another offer of alliance came from the boy king of the Eyrie, Ronel Arryn, whose mother asked for all the lands east of the Green Fork of the Trident for the Vale's support against Black Heron. Even in the north, King Torrhen Stark of Winterfell sat with his lords bannermen and councillors late into the night, discussing what was to be done about this would-be conqueror. The whole realm waited anxiously to see where Aegon would move next. Within days of his coronation, Aegon's armies were on the march. Again. The greater part of his host crossed the Blackwater Rush, making south for Storm's End under the command of Orys Baratheon. Queen Rhaenys accompanied him, astride Merryxes of the Golden Eyes and Silver Scales. The Targaryen fleet, under Daemon Valerion, left Blackwater Bay and turned north, for Gulltown and the Vale. With them went Queen Visenya and Vhagar. The king himself marched northwest, to the God's Eye in Harrenhal, the gargantuan fortress that was the pride and obsession of King Harren the Black. All 3 of the Targaryen thrusts faced fierce opposition. Lords Errol, Fell, and Buckler, bannermen to Storm's End, surprised the advance elements of Orys Baratheon's host as they were crossing the Wendwater, cutting down more than 1,000 men before fading back into the trees. A hastily assembled Arryn fleet, augmented by a dozen Braavosea warships, met and defeated the Targaryen fleet in the waters off Gulltown. Amongst the dead was Aegon's admiral, Daemon Valerion. Aegon himself was attacked on the south shore of the God's Eye, not once but twice. The Battle of the Reeds was a Targaryen victory, but they suffered heavy losses at the Wailing Willows when 2 of King Harren's sons crossed the lake in longboats with muffled oars and fell upon their rear. In the end, though, Aegon's enemies had no answer for his dragons. The men of the Vale sank a third of the Targaryen ships and captured near as many, but when Queen Visenya descended upon them from the sky, their own ships burned. Lords Errol, Fell, and Buckler hid in their familiar forests until Queen Rhaenys unleashed Merryxes and a wall of fire swept through the woods, turning the trees to torches. And the victors at the Wailing Willows, returning across the lake to Harrenhal, were ill-prepared when Balerion fell upon them out of the morning sky. Harren's longboats burned. So did Harren's sons. Aegon's foes also found themselves plagued by other enemies. As Argilac the Arrogant gathered his swords at Storm's End, pirates from the Stepstones descended on the shores of Cape Wrath to take advantage of their absence, and Dornish raiding parties came boiling out of the Red Mountains to sweep across the marches. In the Vale, young King Ronel had to contend with a rebellion on the 3 Sisters, when the Sistermen renounced all allegiance to the Eyrie and proclaimed Lady Marla Sunderland their queen. Yet these were but minor vexations compared to what befell Harren the Black. Though House Hoare had ruled the Riverlands for 3 generations, the men of the Trident had no love for their ironborn overlords. Harren the Black had driven thousands to their deaths in the building of his great castle of Harrenhal, plundering the Riverlands for materials, and beggaring lords and smallfolk alike with his appetite for gold. So now the Riverlands rose against him, led by Lord Edmund Tully of Riverrun. Summoned to the defense of Harrenhal, Tully declared for House Targaryen instead, raised the dragon banner over his castle, and rode forth with his knights and archers to join his strength to Aegon's. His defiance gave heart to the other riverlords. One by one, the lords of the Trident renounced Harren and declared for Aegon the Dragon. Blackwoods, Malisters, Vances, Brackens, Hypers, Freys, Strongs, summoning their levies, they descended on Harrenhal.